although Ohio State is in the college football playoffs, that does not mean the transfer portal stops for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Ryan Day, and the rest of the crew that he's got on over there. The transfer portal is not open yet. However, there are rumors of certain players entering into the portal, and there are also rumors of back channel conversations, not necessarily with the player, but a lot of times with the agents and sometimes the family members going on as well. Well, right now, as the playoffs approach and Ohio State does not know who they're playing yet, they have taken some time to reach out to a few different players' agents, even talk to some family members. Not necessarily, like I said, talk to the players. That would be the tampering and stuff like that, as if anybody really cares about that anymore. But there are three players that Ohio State does seem to be trending up on in various levels. Not all of these are absolute locks. I do think one of these at this point is very likely to go to Ohio State, and the other two are trending up, and Ohio State seems to be kind of one of those final schools for one of them, and the other one just now conversation is getting started. So if you would, please do like and subscribe here to the Big Ten Huddle. We provide you with all kinds of Big Ten content, overarching Big Ten views, anti-SEC views, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, you name it. We got all different kinds of content, anything that surrounds the Big Ten and how much we dislike those dirty, dirty SEC. I shouldn't say dirty. I'm trying to make a joke here, but somebody's going to clip that, and that would not be good. The SEC fans that we obviously are not fond of. So we just hit 5,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for doing that. Please continue to like and subscribe. Help us to continue to grow this channel so we can provide you with more awesome Ohio State content and beyond here on the Big Ten Huddle. The first player that we want to look at for Ohio State is probably the most obvious one. It's Chaz Coleman out of Penn State. He's going to be a sophomore next year, 6'4", 246 pounds. And this is no secret that Ohio State needs to go after some kind of defensive end, edge type of player to really get after the quarterback. Most likely, Kenyatta Jackson is moving on. Caden will be moving on, as I do believe he is out of eligibility after this season. Kenyatta Jackson, most likely a second round pick, could possibly play himself into a late first round pick with a really good playoff structure out there. But I don't think anybody's banking on Ohio State to be out in the first round. And if they're going to go deep into the playoffs, they're going to need really good play from a Kenyatta Jackson. So assuming Ohio State does win one or two games at the very least in the college football playoffs, Kenyatta Jackson most likely gone. That's when you look at somebody like Chaz Coleman. He played in 9 games this season. He was the second highest graded true freshman on PFF, true freshman defensive end, that is on PFF, a 91.1. He had a fantastic win rate. He only rushed the passer 70 times, and he created a pressure on 15 of those 70 snaps. Now, he only has 8 tackles, only 1 sack, so those kind of numbers are not going to, jump off the page for you, but 3 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and even 1 pass deflected as well. Like I said, this is probably the most obvious one out of all of these. You're probably saying to yourself, all right, JR, move on to the next one because we've known about this. We figured this is going to happen. And while you're right, I mean, defensive end isn't going to be a huge need for Ohio State. Bo Atkinson is coming up, and maybe he'll do something with it next year as well. They have some young guys behind him too, but you really need a guy that's an exceptional pass rusher to be added to this team for next season, and Chaz Coleman looks to be that kind of guy. He's a pass rushing specialist. Coleman is obviously from Ohio. If you've been following this, you know that Ohio State, if you follow recruiting, you know that Ohio State got on to Coleman a little bit late, as they sometimes do with Ohio players, and Chaz Coleman was not, I wouldn't say he wasn't too fond of it, but he stuck with Penn State even after Ohio State came after them. But apparently the relationship with him and Larry Johnson is still strong. He does not have bad feelings toward Larry Johnson, and it does look like he is most likely going to be a Buckeye next season when the transfer portal opens. I would not be surprised at all to see Chaz Coleman enter into there pretty quickly and go to Ohio State rather quickly as well. Seems like this is the most likely thing. His mind is not made up by any means, but it seems like this is the most likely path for Chaz Coleman. Next, we have we're going down south to the SEC, and we're going to look at Jaden Baugh, the Florida running back. Who, again, this is in no way, shape, or form is this for sure going to happen to Ohio State, but there is some momentum going on here. Jaden Baugh, the incoming junior, he's 6'1", 231 pounds. He would be an excellent addition to the running back room for Ohio State as he carried the ball 220 times this season. 1,170 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns. He was also a good receiver, over 200 yards receiving this season, and he also did take a few kickoffs, kick returns in this one, as he had 4 kick returns for 82 yards. That could be a good addition to this team as well. They just got Legend Bay to come from Tennessee, and he's going to be huge for them on special teams, but you don't necessarily want to throw the true freshman right into special teams. Maybe give him a little bit of time, and Jaden Baugh could be somebody that could help him maybe have a little bit of time to be able to get into the special teams and maybe take it over full time at some point freshman year. But anyway, down to the story of all of this. Jaden Baugh, obviously, John Summerall coming in. We've seen that he basically told DJ Lagway, we're going to go a different direction with the quarterback position. That's not what's happening here with Jaden Baugh. John Summerall wants Jaden Baugh to be on this team. However, negotiations between Jaden Baugh and Florida are being quite expensive. Jaden Baugh wants to be a feature back wherever he goes, but he also wants to be paid like a feature back wherever he goes as well. If he came to Ohio State, he would obviously share the running back room with Bo Jackson, but I think this type of conversation could be helpful for him because you have seen proof of concept between TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins in the past, and Carlos Locklyn could sell Jaden Baugh on that as well. Say, look at what we had with Q and Trey. Now this is what we're going to have with you and Bo Jackson. You're the older player. You will be the bell cow. You will be the one that gets the primary amount of work. Bo Jackson will come in and be there with you as well. You're looking at about a 14-10 per game, maybe 12-12 per game split between touches of those two guys. It's going to keep Jaden Baugh fresh. It's going to keep him ready to go, and he's already has a really high draft stock for when he gets to the NFL draft, and so there's not too much concern there. The concern for Ohio State is that Jaden Baugh is a player who is most likely going to demand close to, if not fully, $1 million in the transfer portal. And for a running back, that is very, very expensive money. Ohio State, they are kind of known for going cheap on their running backs, but we saw what going cheap on your running backs did for you this year. You got C.J. Donaldson, who, could be drafted this season. Maybe, we'll see. But he's not exactly had the most spectacular season in the world. Bo Jackson eventually comes in. He's the starter over C.J. Donaldson in that one. James Peoples, they held on to him. He's not necessarily progressed maybe the way they would have liked him to. And then you have Isaiah West. Excuse me. Isaiah West, who's come in as a freshman and looked like the secondary back, secondary back. C.J. Donaldson is more the third down back, so secondary back in that whole situation there. C.J. Donaldson more the third down, the kind of short yardage situation, much to Buckeye fans' chagrin. In that whole situation. But it's just going to be very interesting what happens here. Ohio State seems to be one of the 3 teams that Jaden Baugh wants to consider the most, the other 2 being Texas and Georgia. You're obviously going to have a whole lot of financial competition with Texas, and then Georgia, obviously proof of concept with their running back room and how they're able to run the ball and how committed they are to it. So this is by no means a lock for Ohio State. However, this is a good place for Ohio State to be, and we'll see if Carlos Locklyn and them can bring him in. So Baugh would most likely command more than Ohio State has spent on a running back, I believe, ever. I believe the most they ever spent on a running back was Quinshon Judkins, if I'm not mistaken. And it sounds like Baugh would command more than even Judkins made when he transferred to Ohio State. The other part of all this is that the price just continues to continues to go up year after year after year. The price of these players is continuing to grow up. It's something that is making college football even more difficult. Obviously, nobody cares to hear that. They just look at the coaching staff and say deliver. And obviously, that's what is expected. But as these players continue to get higher and higher offers, they're going to demand more and more money. Sorry about that. I had a coughing fit. I had to pause the video. The last one here will be somebody, if you are a recruiting junkie and you have been for a while for Ohio State, you will know the name here, John Walker, defensive tackle, defensive lineman, coming out of the state of Florida. He's going to be a redshirt junior next year, 6'4", 324 pounds. He is from Kissimmee, Florida. Highly regarded coming out of high school. He was a top 100 player, according to 24/7. Four-star recruit. This season, he played in 12 games, 40 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble. And if those numbers don't sound great to you, I get that. He was honorable mention All Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year. He was on the On3 True Freshman All-American. He got that recognition. And then Walker redshirted in 2024 and did not appear in a single game. So far, really the whole connection that we have here between John Walker in Ohio State is that Larry Johnson did follow John Walker on Instagram not too long ago. John Walker originally committed to UCF to stay close to home, but now it looks like he might be willing to go away from home. He was UCF's highest rated recruit in UCF history. John Walker hasn't quite made the impact that maybe UCF wanted, especially with what they were paying him. He was one of the top earners on their roster as an interior defensive lineman. Obviously they're going to command a lot of money because they are specialized, but he's not making as much as he could someplace else. One of the insiders on On3 said they believe he's making somewhere around $600,000. But if he went somewhere else in college football, he would command a whole lot more money than that, even if he didn't have the best season this year. John Walker's camp seems to believe that UCF brought him back to play too early, and that was one of the reasons why he did not play as well as maybe some anticipated this season, is maybe he was not playing at 100% to begin the season, and he was never given the proper amount of time to get to 100% to be able to play in 2025. So essentially what he wants, it sounds like, is he wants more money and he also wants better development. There is still a belief out there that John Walker can turn into an NFL type of player, and what better place to do it than number 1 with Larry Johnson and number 2 with the defensive tackle whisperer himself, Matt Patricia, who can definitely sell John Walker on I can turn you into one of the best defensive tackles in the country. It's rumored that John Walker contacted schools that he feels like could develop. And it just so happens that Ohio State would be on that list. Now, he has a good relationship with Larry Johnson, and Larry Johnson does have 1 year left on his contract. So the belief is that Larry Johnson will return next season and be able to coach 1 more year and want to kind of finish out with some of these guys that he has on the roster that he brought in. John Walker would be a guy that he would be able to bring in and really help to be able to develop and use some of that stuff. Now, he would not necessarily be expected to be the starter year 1 or be relied upon as a starter year 1. John Walker, as he would be a redshirt junior next year, would have the time to be able to come in, play sparingly, but he would be able to be that one tech for this team that right now Ohio State is, in kind of danger of not knowing where that's going to come from. There is a possibility that Caden McDonald comes back for Ohio State next year. But again, he's kind of like Kenyatta Jackson. You don't want to necessarily rely on that because that probably means you don't have the best playoff run in the world. If you have a really good playoff run, you're most likely going to be stopping the running game of Georgia. You're going to have to stop the running game of Indiana or Oregon. Again, right? Some of these better running games in the country. And so you're going to need a really, really good interior defensive lineman in Caden McDonald to make that happen. And so the belief would be, even if Caden McDonald does come back, John Walker would have a season to be able to learn and grow and develop. So Ohio State is assessing how many options they have at defensive tackle right now. John Walker is by far, not the, I guess by far not, however you want to, phrase it. He is not their only option they're looking at, and he will not be their only option they look at, but this is an option that does seem to be appearing early on before the transfer portal opens. John Walker, if he does, he has gone into the portal. We'll see how that all works out. But right now, John Walker does seem to be a little bit interested in Ohio State. We're not totally sure if Ohio State is 100% interested in him, but it does sound like if they are interested in him, he would be somebody that would have, they would be somebody that would have a really good shot at landing John Walker. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would love to hear your thoughts. Like, subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking. Who are some positions that Ohio State needs to go after? I will say, I've been asked about this on a few other videos. I do not think Ohio State is going to go after a wide receiver. if they did not get Chris Henry Jr. I think that would have opened up some funds for Ohio State to be able to go after a Cam Coleman or a Nick Marsh, somebody like that. But with the funds that were allocated for Chris Henry Jr., I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're most likely going to see Chris Henry Jr., if not start next year, battle for a starting spot. And let's remember, even though some of the wide receivers maybe were not up to standard this past season coming off the bench, Quincy Porter was hurt, and there is a belief out there that Quincy Porter is the real deal, and he's somebody that will be able to come in and perform very well for Ohio State when he's not injured, if he's able to get back onto the field. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts. Would love to hear what you guys are thinking, what you're saying. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.